Gulzar Saab, of course, needs no introduction. He's a filmmaker, he's a poet, he's a writer, he's a translator now, and various other talents. उनकी नई किताब आई है, Suspected Poems, and it's after some time, sir, you're writing.
Yeah, I think after 2-3 years or 4 years with Penguin again. Suspected poems are some of these poems, not all of them, koi 1 or 2 or 3 have been published in Hindi, but not all of these poems. So, which Pawanji had heard it from me in 1 or 2 sessions, in literary sessions and other places. And he suddenly, once we were in Patna, when I recited some of the major poems in this, which are in this book, so he said, your political or social comments are very interesting. Why don't you select these poems and give them to me? I would like to translate them in English. So he had already translated 3-4 books of mine, of my poetry, which consisted of selected poems, neglected poems, and green poems. Green poems was about the environments, all poems. And it is after the green poems that we have come to this poem. We were joking about each other. I said, every poem will be seen with a suspicion. Okay, what you mean on the surface is not what you mean.
Absolutely.
Separation or grief, which has been his normal run. And I told him that he should put together these poems because in a sense they bring out a great deal of angst that is dormant or active in society and reflects it. And the manner that he has used, the modality, which is irony, which is sarcasm, which is understatement, which is allusion, which is elliptical, makes the poem all the more powerful.
Why do you think this voice is coming out at this time?
It is because of our continuously monotonous, should I call it, governance, our system, our political system. It's continuously going on and repetition. Same thing, scams also, and telling lies, and then giving same kind of statements. And the politics has taken a form which is engraved into a style and a system. Similar statements, every government makes the same thing. And somewhere, for a common man, it starts irritating you.
You watched it for so long now. Is it like deteriorating a lot in the recent past?
It is. It is coming to its saturated point that you can't take it anymore. And especially now when the generations have changed and generations are changing. So you come to, and for me, for example, I started looking at it happening when the partition happened. And I've seen the independence coming in. For first 15-20 years, we were bright and we were hoping things will change, or we were hoping things will come to this. And then it got into a groove of corruption, lies to the common man. And the common man kept bearing it for years and decades. Till even the second generation and the third generation has changed. So for me, I have observed it right from the beginning up to here.
Yeah.
And I know my time is over.
No.
It's all over in the sense, it's at the age of 83 and 82 now. I'm running 83. I know the next generation has taken over already and they are working out. And even in politics, I've started seeing that the young generation takeover is one pleasant thing which is happening. But otherwise, it's a pattern of governance which goes on and on. The poor man is becoming poorer, the rich man is becoming richer.
Also, it appears, this collection is really one of your most political
Yes, yes,
poems.
that is why
You
these
know,
poems.
it's very amazing that actually, though they are poems, they are actually about news events. They are about newspaper headlines. They are about riots. They are about atrocities against Dalits. They are against. They are
Yes.
about women's
You know,
crimes.
you start losing your patience. You come to a saturated point where your pain keeps on. You can't take it anymore. So, for a writer, for a poet, the only way is to say it out. A writer or a poet is not an activist politically in the meaning of an activist. But this is what a poet can do.
If you read the book carefully, you will see that it deals a lot with politicians and politics. It deals with issues of the relative neglect of the underprivileged. There are several poems on Dalit rights, for instance. And they deal also with issues of deliberately stoked communal violence, as also on a subject which moved him, especially after the murder of Kalburgi, which is a new form of intolerance where the space for dialogue and debate is being stifled and arguments end with violence. Now, these are issues which are burning issues, contemporary issues. And I think he has put most of these poems together, and that is why we've even given perhaps the title Suspected Poems.
Is anybody listening to the poet?
The common man is listening, but those who are in the top and are governing are not listening still. It makes no difference to them. But that's the only way when the momentum should start working from the grassroots. For example, Dalits movement now, it has been on for a number of years, right from the time we got independence, but now it is coming to a matured point, to a saturated point, and that movement has become stronger.
Because as they say, sir, when a society stops listening to its poets, it loses its soul. The thinkers and the philosophers and the poets are what in the end make, a society. And if they are not,
And then, for a common man, it's first of all for a poet is jotting down the history of my times by this, that we are passing through this time.
yes,
Because Rajas and ministers will have their biographies,
yes,
but who will write for the common man?
yeah,
This is what literature does.
absolutely.
The literature does only this.
Yes, he's the chronicler of
Yes,
when an
of the
independent-
common man.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is a part of my duty to do it. And say it honestly and keep the voice clean.
Do you see any hope at all? I mean, in the sense that do you see?
It has to come. It has to change. The change will come. I'm very, very hopeful with this particular generation. I think India is going to take a side. एक करवट लेगा जिसे कहते हैं. It's going to turn side. It has to.
Sir, we have seen in politics, sir, many times a young person comes, a new party happens and there is a lot of hope. Let's say AAP, for instance. But somehow now, many of its supporters also feel that, it's again become, one of them. And it's, so, I mean, every time the hopes are raised and then, nothing.
It has been happening for 3, 4, 5 decades.
Yeah.
The change which has come, I can explain it to you.
Yes, sir.
There used to be one party rule only.
Yeah.
And then came the collision of different parties making. And no, there was not one party suite. The collision which made NDA and which made the UPA. Now this was not there to start with.
Which is a good sign.
Which is a good sign. So it had developed that way. The smaller parties, otherwise we were actually suffering from small little issues like language issue, say from South.
Yes.
It died of its own. When they when they came up to the center and they knew they had to, for them that matter ended with that. They knew that you have to get into a common language to speak all over India. It was no more regional. That regional, those small skirmishes ended. Once again you are into the same all one party. That is why this little turbulence at this time again. Okay, let's not get into that.
या इनफैक्ट इन दिस
हाँ.
कलेक्शन आपका इस वाले सस्पेक्टेड पोएम्स में इनफैक्ट अगर जैसे आपने कहा अगर बिटवीन द लाइंस यू नो इट्स एक्चुअली नॉट आई मीन इट्स अ टेलिंग you know about the present situation.
Yes.
So I mean,
Because
do you ever feel a little that you know that you shouldn't be saying so much? I mean, is there a fear of not speaking
No,
up?
not the fear. We have been saying it right from the beginning. For example, in my every film, there is a political comment. Right from my first film itself. There was always a political comment.
That's true.
But the intolerance is reaching its climax. So the intolerance has come to a saturated point. I think that is why. And that's a sign, that's a healthy sign. It should happen. It should happen. Only then it will burst. And I'm very much hopeful that this generation, I think they will change. They will start owning India. I have a lot of hope. And Dalits will get their due. It's time, it's high time. You have to concede. You can't go on doing it forever. And when you see around in the other countries around you, your neighbor, you feel you are better off.
Of course.
And this better off feeling is the positive feeling. That's a very positive feeling.
That's true.
When we look around, we see that we have not been bad. We can criticize our shortcomings. And we will go on doing it. But we know we are still doing better. And we are towards a better development.
That's the thing, you know, it seems like, you know, the young generation really wants to, I mean, it's not really interested in, you know, the
But have you read the book?
Yeah, I've read many poems from him. This one.
Huh.
Yes.
Because it has to be with reference to the book.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, if you would you like to talk about one of the specific poems there? I mean, I read the Riots Pe, for instance, Babri Pe.
No, in general, that is the character of the book, and which has been very kind of Pavanji to point it out and translate all those poems. I mean, it was his initiative that he said, okay, you take out these poems separately and make a collection, because that will make a better impact than to have a few poems with everybody.
Absolutely.
So I think he was right, and that is where he guided me into it.
In fact, I think it's got a very, you know, the tenor is the same throughout.
Yes,
I have not read all of it, but I read quite a bit.
That's where Pavanji comes with his experience.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank
Welcome.
you so much.
Thank you.